I have now been using the Valerion VisionMaster Pro2 projector for almost the last 3 months. Valerion sent me this projector to review, and I got it all set up, hooked up, started watching movies on it, and immediately fell in love with it. So I have been using it for, like I say, almost the last 3 months. Now, initially, when I set it up here in my theater, I had the Epson 6050 UB projector, which I've run that projector for like the last 3 years. And so I had to remove the Epson 6050 and then install the Valerion VisionMaster Pro 2. Now, initially, when I set out to do the first review, which I made a video review about this projector, which you can obviously go back and watch. But initially, I intended to set this projector up just to review it. And after I got it set up, I couldn't go back to the 6050. Now, that says a lot because I was so happy with the Epson 6050 UB. It is a great projector. Now, it's since been discontinued. It's a lamp-based projector. So, you're probably very familiar with the downsides to a lamp projector versus a laser, which the Valerion is a laser projector. So a lamp projector, the bulb is rated for, anywhere from 2 to 3,000 hours, whereas the laser projector is rated for about 20,000 hours. That's where I'm at with this. I just couldn't put my 6050 back in. Now, there are some things that the 6050 does better than the Valerion, specifically when it comes to lens shift and optical zoom. Nothing can beat the Epson for that. I mean, it's just so versatile. Whereas the Valerion, it does have some limitations, but I will get into that in a moment. So you might be saying, well, George, it was placebo effect. You got this shiny new projector, you plugged it in, and of course you're going to think it looks better, right? Well, it's not just me. I had my brother Forrest come over, and he came in and he sat down, and I started up some demo clips, and from the very first clip, immediately his reaction was, "Whoa, this picture is incredible." Like, he was immediately just very awestruck at what a difference there was in the picture quality. And it is true. It really, really looks good. Now, I did mention some of the limitations with the projector. Now, having had it for, like I say, almost 3 months now, what do I think of those limitations? Well, when I say limitations, I'm specifically referring to the optical zoom. It does have optical zoom, but it only goes so far. And then once the optical zoom runs out, then you have to use digital zoom. And there's problems with that, which I'll get to in just one moment. But the other limitation is the lack of vertical shift. So when I installed the projector up here on the ceiling, I had to physically tilt the projector down because of the way the picture is projected, and I'm not able to adjust that inside the device. Whereas like with the Epson, it's just right there on the remote. You can just move that lens up and down. But in the case of the Valerion, you have to physically shift the projector up and down to get it to line up with the screen. That lack of lens shift combined with the limited optical zoom created a situation where my projector, it's about 17 feet back from my screen, which is a 145-inch screen. And so I had to zoom it all the way in to the limit of the optical zoom, and then beyond that, and use the digital zoom. And so what the digital zoom it does is it keeps the same projection size, like the image size, but then it shrinks the picture within that. And so what that does is it creates this halo effect around your picture. So I have this slight halo. It's light. It's light basically on the outside of the screen. And my room is painted with a dark color that's in a matte finish. And so the halo ring around the picture, it's minimized, but it's still visible. Now, when I made my original video, this was what I discovered. This is what I found. And so I mentioned that in my review. But now, having used this projector for, like I say, almost 3 months, how big of a deal is that halo? And in my room, I would say zero. I don't even notice it. Like, I notice it. Well, now I don't even notice it at all. But initially, I would notice it when I would start up the projector, and then I would sit down and, you get settled in to watch a movie, and I would see the halo. But then once the movie starts, it just disappears. Like, you really are just focused on the movie, and I don't see the halo at all. It is not an issue. So I've been very pleased with that. And the nice thing about those limitations with no lens shift and the zoom, once you get your projector installed, it's only an issue when you're first initially installing it. Once you get it installed, you're past that, and it's no longer an issue. Like, I haven't even thought about the lack of those features or those functions over the last 3 months. Like, it's just not an issue. Once you get the projector dialed in, that's it, and you're done. Now, in my last video, I talked about a couple of the features regarding how to adjust the picture. And one of the features that I specifically called out was EBL, or Enhanced Black Level. This is a pretty cool feature. Now, at the time that I made the video, when I first got the projector, this setting was just an on-off setting. And so you either had it on or you had it off. They've since added some minor adjustments to it. So this came through in a firmware update that came out recently. And now there is off, and then there are 2 other settings that go along with it. And so what this does is this, as it says, enhances the black levels. And so everybody is different. Everybody has different preferences. Everybody likes different things, right? And so when it comes to black levels, for some people, they just want the blackest, inkiest blacks possible. For other people, they want those blacks to be a little more blown out, and so that they can see the detail that's in that. For instance, like if you have a shot where it's kind of dark and there's part of a room that's in shadow, well, if your black levels are cranked way up, that's just going to be blacked out. You're not going to be able to see that. But if you crank up or rather crank down the black level enhancement, then it'll kind of wash out that dark area, and you'll be able to see, oh, maybe there's the outline of a chair in there. Oh, maybe there's some pictures on the wall that I couldn't see before. And really, this just comes down to personal preference. And so it's, which way do you prefer it? Now, when it comes to this enhanced black level function on this projector, I just recommend to people, just trial and error. Just try it. Just try a different setting and then watch a couple movies and see how you like it. And then try the other setting and then try it with it off and just see which way you prefer it. Now, unfortunately, with the EBL setting, it doesn't update in real time. So when you make the selection, say you have a movie playing, it's not going to actually be discernible. You're not going to be able to really see exactly what has changed, which is different than the other settings. The other settings, you can immediately see how it affects it. And I'm going to get into those in just a moment. But with the EBL setting, I recommend people just select it and then just watch the movies, see how you like it, and then try a different setting, see how you like it. And eventually you'll find which way you prefer it. Now, one of the settings that I didn't know about when I first got the projector, like in the first week or two, but I've since discovered, and it has made a pretty big difference. Now, I had the projector set up. I had the color settings, everything, set up. A lot of it was by default, like the default setting. But it looked really good right out of the box. It just looked good. But I noticed that on a few movies, and in specific, not even for the entire movie, but just specific scenes in certain movies, the color looked a little off. And probably the best and most pronounced example is from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. It's the scene where they're racing through the city, and then they crash, and then they get on motorcycles, and then they go racing off down the highway. In that particular scene, the color was just too yellow. It looked too saturated, and it looked too yellow. And initially, I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. But like I said, I didn't really see any problems with any other scenes in that movie, and certainly not any other movies that I'd seen up to that point. But then I discovered this setting, and it's the color space setting. And there are different, you can set it to auto, and then there are other different settings. And I had it set to BT.2020. And then I tried switching over to some of the other settings, and they improved it. But when I set it to auto, that completely fixed the yellow problem. After I set it to yellow, every scene in every movie just looks good, which kind of makes sense that, it would automatically choose the best. So I don't know exactly what's happening under the hood, but what I found is that the auto setting is the best setting. And now that scene, the chase scene, the motorcycle scene, it just looks perfect. And so I recommend people to use that auto setting. Now, another setting that I have found particularly useful is the clarity setting. Now, the best way to think about this one is as though you have a TV. You know how with TVs and projectors, but it has the setting, not the setting, but it's how the picture is handled, whether it's 60 hertz, 120 hertz, 240 hertz. And when it's at 60 hertz, there's a lot of motion judder. It's kind of blurrier. And then 120 hertz, everything gets clearer. And then 240 hertz, it's just like crystal clear, and there's just like no motion judder at all. Well, this particular setting, the clarity setting, this one, it allows you to kind of select between those. And so it has film as kind of the base or the lowest setting. That's where you get the most motion judder. That's where everything is kind of the blurriest. Now, you would say, well, why would you want that? Well, this is the setting that most closely mirrors what you see on movies that were shot on film. So when you used to go to the theater and it was showing a movie on film that was shot on film, you get that motion judder. So it looks it's kind of almost nostalgic. It's like, yeah, this is what movies used to look like, right? But then you can bump it up and it gives you several options all the way up to smooth. And smooth is the clearest and just super tight setting where it just looks crystal clear and there is no motion judder at all. Now, for me, most movies, I prefer to watch it on that smooth setting. So I crank the clarity all the way up, but it comes down to personal taste. So I highly recommend people to try this setting so that you can see which one you prefer. Now, on that note, I encourage everyone to go to the picture settings, go through the menu, just look at all of the different within within the picture settings. There's submenus, and then each menu gives you multiple options for adjustment within that. And it really is stunning how many different things you can adjust with this projector when it comes to the picture. And so I highly recommend people just go in there and just start messing with stuff. I mean, there is an option to reset everything to the factory defaults, back to the default settings. But when I go in to make an adjustment, I just make a note. I'm like, oh, okay, right now it's set at 0, and I just crank it all the way to one side, and then I crank it all the way up, or turn it off or on, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going, which one I prefer. I'm going to put it back at 0 where it was, or actually I kind of like it up at 10 or -10 or whatever. But I always just make a note of where it was set before I start adjusting stuff, just so that I know I can get it back to the baseline. But it's a lot of fun to go through all of these different settings and see exactly how it affects the picture. And most of them, if not all of them, except for the EBL, adjust in real time. So you can turn on a movie, and while the movie's playing, you can adjust the levels. Now, usually what I'll do is I'll pause the movie so that it's a static image so I can see how it affects that specific image. Like, oh, I can see how it affects the color or the shadows or the dark, whatever. This is really cool. This projector, it's like infinitely adjustable. Like you really can just dial everything in to fit your exact tastes. So definitely get into those menus and try all those adjustments and see what works for you. I could not be happier with the Valerion VisionMaster Pro2. This projector is so good. It's so cool. It looks so sharp. And it's not just me saying that. Like I say, I've had other people come into my theater, specifically my brother. He was super impressed with it. I love it so much. I kept it. I'm like, I'm going to keep this projector because it is so nice. And they keep updating, right? With firmware updates. Like I mentioned, they updated that EBL setting, the enhanced black level setting. Now you have multiple options. It's not just on and off. The other thing that they fixed, sometimes the projector was a little bit loud with the fan. Like you'd be sitting there watching a movie and you hear the fan kind of crank up. It wasn't like super loud, but it was audible and you could hear it. Well, they've since fixed that with a firmware update. And now when the projector is on, it's quieter and that ramp up doesn't really happen, or it has happened a couple times still, but it's less frequent. And so they're just making it better and better, and it's a great projector, and I am so happy with it. And right now, Valerian is doing an anniversary sale where you can save up to $1,578. If you buy a VisionMaster Pro 2, you get a free screen, free mount, and free 3D glasses. And also, as if that wasn't crazy enough, they're also doing a 100% refund winner per day. So after you buy your projector, you just enter in the drawing, and then each day they will choose someone who gets a full refund on their purchase. So that is really cool. I'm not sure exactly how long this sale is going to last, but definitely check it out. I'll put a link up in the description box. Go check it out. This is a killer deal. Thanks for watching.